Okay, Donald Trump's press secretary and senior campaign advisor, Kayleigh McEnany, held a press briefing yesterday. And if anything has become clear in the last 5 weeks, it's that she is absolutely determined and committed to going down with the ship in the most humiliating way possible. Kayleigh McEnany, you may remember, it feels like a decade ago, but it was not that long ago. I don't remember how long ago it was. On her first day in the press briefing room as White House press secretary, Kayleigh promised the media she would never lie to them and she would never lie to the American people. But I know. But she's done nothing but lie ever since. So let's look at some highlights, or really, I guess they would be lowlights, from what is closer and closer to being her last briefing as White House press secretary. She's asked a question, understandably, logically, about the fact, and it is a fact, that the Electoral College has voted. Will Donald Trump now acknowledge that he lost, given that the Electoral College has voted on Monday? And without a shred of irony, Kayleigh McEnany refers the question to the campaign, of which she is a senior advisor, remember.
Ben.
Kayleigh, now that the Electoral College has voted, does the president acknowledge that Joe Biden is the president-elect? Does he have any plans to invite him here to the White House?
The president is still involved in ongoing litigation related to the election. Yesterday's vote was one step in the constitutional process, so I will leave that to him and refer you to the campaign for more on that litigation.
What is his reaction to Leader McConnell today congratulating Joe Biden and calling him the president-elect?
I haven't gotten the president's reaction to that yet, but the president, again, is pursuing ongoing litigation, would refer you to the campaign for further.
And what's the path forward, though, for litigation? If the votes have been certified, if the Electoral College has voted, there doesn't seem to be a legal recourse at this point.
The campaign would have more specifics for you on legal recourse, but yesterday was one step in the constitutional process leading up to the January 20th date in the Constitution.
This is such a tired, farcical game that she's been playing. If it's convenient, she's the White House press secretary. And if it's convenient, she's the Trump campaign senior advisor. And you're going to have to ask the other entity about that question. It's actually completely embarrassing at this point, and she doesn't care. She just keeps using that to avoid answering questions. No question is simple for Kayleigh McEnany. The answer is always weird. She was asked a pretty straightforward question: will Trump take the vaccine? And she says Trump is open to taking the vaccine. Well, but will he take it? We don't actually get an answer to that part.
Does the president plan to take the vaccine, and will he do it in a public way to inspire confidence among people?
So the president currently at this moment has said he is absolutely open to taking the vaccine. He's been emphatic about that to me privately and to you all publicly. But he did recently recover from COVID. He has the continued protective effects of the monoclonal antibody cocktail that I mentioned. And he will receive the vaccine as soon as his medical team determines it's best. But his priority is frontline workers, those in long-term care facilities, and he wants to make sure that the vulnerable get access first. Yes.
Wouldn't him taking the vaccine set an example for Americans to give them confidence? Dr. Fauci, as well as Montef Slaoui, both said today that they think President Trump should get the vaccine. If A, because for himself, but B, to set an example. Will he do that? Why not do it just to show Americans that it's safe?
Because he also wants to show Americans that our priority are the most vulnerable. There will be some senior administration officials taking it publicly to instill that confidence. It is very important.
This is not merely a cop-out answer. It's actually dangerous, because Kayleigh cites as a reason maybe Trump doesn't need the vaccine the fact that he had coronavirus and recovered for it, so he has naturally derived immunity. That's still a question mark. Why, when you know that the followers of this president are disproportionately anti-science Trump brown-nosers who will do anything they can to excuse behaving less safely, we don't know how long immunity lasts after a recovery from the virus. That's an open question. We don't know whether you have stronger, longer lasting, more robust immunity if you recover from a serious case of the virus versus if you had one of those asymptomatic cases. These are open questions, and it's irresponsible for her to be saying that maybe Trump doesn't really need the vaccine or needs it less because he recovered from the virus. CDC guidelines and equivalent guidelines around the world from other country health agencies are, regardless of whether you've had the virus, when a vaccine becomes available, you should get the vaccine. Moving on, Kayleigh again says that Donald Trump will veto military funding, partially because he's angry at Twitter.
Do you know specifically when the president will veto the National Defense Authorization Act, when he's going to send the paperwork over? And why would he veto that given the fact it passed on veto-proof majorities in Congress?
So he still does plan to veto the NDAA. Don't have a timeline for you on that, but he does plan to veto it. He wants to make every effort to protect our military men and women, and will prioritize military funding in the big omnibus bill. But he also has other important priorities and I should say problems with the NDAA beyond just the absence of Section 230 repeal and beyond the inclusion of the Warren Amendment. One of the provisions of concern is provisions about troop withdrawal and deployment in Afghanistan, South Korea, and Germany. And so there are a number of provisions that.
Let me remind you about that. Trump has talked about this Section 230 thing. Section 230 is a provision which essentially says that if there is illegal, libelous, or otherwise problematic content on a platform like Twitter or YouTube, it is not Twitter or YouTube that are liable. It's whoever posts it that is liable. And Donald Trump believes that if you eliminate Section 230, a lot of anti-Trump trends would be shut down. Like, for example, when Donald Trump sat at that tiny desk and attacked people on Thanksgiving Day, and then the hashtag Diaper Dawn trended on Twitter, Diaper Dawn sort of an allusion to the petulant child that is Donald Trump. Trump went crazy talking about Section 230. Section 230, if we get rid of it, Twitter would never allow Diaper Dawn to trend. Now, there's really no legal liability with Diaper Dawn, a hashtag about not just a public person, but one of the most powerful public figures in the world. So that actually wouldn't change Diaper Dawn from trending. But what Trump seems not to understand is that if Section 230 is eliminated, he likely gets banned from Twitter because of the things he posts to Twitter, which are wrong, public health disinformation, election disinformation, posts that direct bullying against individuals. Trump seems to think his problems go away if Section 230 goes away. In fact, he probably gets banned from Twitter if Section 230 goes away. All right, so that's that. To get back on track, Kayleigh continues to allude to a second Trump term starting on January 20th. It's all coded language, but here she refers to, listen, we're ready for a transition and we're also ready for a continuation of power, and either might happen. The Electoral College has voted. It's over, but Kayleigh continues to play this game.
Biden's cabinet picks. President Trump had the benefit of the Senate starting hearings and starting the process before he was inaugurated in January of 2017. Does the president oppose the Senate taking up Joe Biden's nominees before the inauguration?
I think that's a hypothetical, and he won't get ahead of that activity actually happening. But he has taken all statutory requirements necessary to either ensure a smooth transition or a continuation of power.
Just absolutely out of her mind. There's no caveat here. There's no mitigating factor. She's just pushing nonsense. The Electoral College voted on Monday. Joe Biden has 270, actually 306 electoral votes. They're gaslighting people. That's all it is. And they continue to raise money on it. Trump as recently as yesterday sending out emails saying, I need to raise $1 million in the next hour or day or whatever it was. Kayleigh asked, why hasn't Donald Trump been more visible during the vaccine rollout? I mean, this is happening. And shouldn't he be there? We barely see the president. Where has he been? He has nothing on his schedule ever. And Kayleigh, with a straight face, says it's because Trump's been so busy working.
Why hasn't President Trump been more visible during this initial vaccine rollout? You have the vice president in Indiana today. Where's President Trump?
President Trump's been hard at work on COVID behind the scenes. Just because you don't see him at the podium every day doesn't mean that he's not aggressively pursuing actions on behalf of the American people. He's briefed on COVID regularly, and I'm here speaking with you guys. Others are out communicating this information.
All the things she's talking about, working behind the scenes, meetings, working on COVID, his public schedule is blank every day. It is the argument. Now, of course, when the president, there are things that are off a president's public schedule that the president does. But is the argument that just like having meetings about the vaccine are so secret that they can't even be on Trump's schedule? It's just more lies. Trump is doing nothing. Every report from inside the White House is that Trump is doing nothing. And then the sort of denouement here as she walks out is she of course walks out after taking very few questions and not answering any of them in any real way. You hear in this next clip as she's walking out of the press briefing room, I love this, CNN's Jim Acosta asking, Kayleigh, isn't it hypocritical for you to accuse others of spreading disinformation when you spread it every day? A beautiful question. Someone like Trump might call it a nasty question, but it's an important question. Take a listen.
Really interesting turn of events, and good for those who covered what was a story all along and not Russia disinformation.
Isn't it hypocritical for you to accuse others of disinformation when you spread it every day?
In a logical world, okay, if actions had logical consequences, no one would want to employ Kayleigh McEnany after this absolute insanity of a White House press secretary tenure. Unfortunately, we know that she likely is going to end up with some kind of very cushy gig, either, I don't know, as a consultant at some right-wing organization or doing communications for a company that has right-wing leanings, or who knows, but she is going to have a very soft landing. If she should be unemployable based on the deceit and the lies, but she's going to have a fine landing. If you were worried about where Kayleigh goes after this, don't worry about it at all. We'll have more coverage of this and clips on the show's Instagram page at David Pakman Show. And if you want to see what happened to my umbrella in very, very powerful Boston winds, make sure you're following me on Instagram at david.pakman. A video that has taken, I guess I was going to say the world by storm. Not really. A video that has taken my followers by storm. Me barely able to handle an umbrella in Boston wind. That's on my personal Instagram, david.pakman. We'll take a quick break. Up next, Mitch McConnell. He finally did it. What is it that he did? We'll talk about it in 2 minutes. I want to let you know that our sponsor, Vincero Watches, is having a massive holiday sale on all of their products right now, and you can take advantage of it by going to davidpakman.com/watch. A brand new high quality wristwatch really is the perfect way to add something fresh to your style, whether it's for you or a gift for someone else. Vincero is a brand that has a serious dedication to the craft of watchmaking, which is really evident when you look closely at their watches. I wear Vincero watches myself. Lately, I've been wearing one from their Icon Automatic collection. It's the mesh matte black watch, and I love the sleek minimalist design. Their watches are actually sold at a fair price. Their mission has always been to make a wristwatch from high-end materials, but one that everyday people can afford. And that's why they have over 25,000 five-star reviews, because you won't find a better made watch for this great of a price anywhere else. You can get big holiday discounts on all of their products right now and free shipping when you go to davidpakman.com/watch. I've put the link right underneath this video.